got 3 bets for Saturday at Newbury. We'll start in the Group 3 Sprint, which is due off at 140. I suppose deservedly, in a way, heading the betting is Equilateral. I say deservedly because his form does entitle him to be favourite at this level. But really, he's not the sort of horse that I'm kind of scared of. He's had a lot of chances now. He quite often flatters to deceive. On his day, he's going to be bang there with a chance. But it is quite tempting to take him on, particularly, with him being around sort of 2-1. I think that is short enough. And the one in there that I am quite keen on is Wise Words for James Tate. She's a horse that she did pretty well last year as a 3-year-old. She took off when she started out in handicap. She won her first 2. And she gradually progressed there afterwards, ended her season with victory in a small field minor event. Physically, she really looks like the sort of horse that is going to do better still this year. Connections obviously took the patient approach. She was out for about a year, I think it was, before she came back in the Scarborough Stakes at Doncaster recently. She looked more than comfortable up in grade. She travelled pretty well. She was unlucky not to finish closer than 4th, having been denied a clear run. She had to then pick her way through. Ran on in pretty eye-catching fashion. I think she's capable of making her mark at this level. It is a bit of a step forward that's going to be required, but you've got the likes of Glaziolai, who's been a bit disappointed on his last 2 starts. Tis Marvellous, who doesn't really win that often, for all that he did resume winning ways at a lower level last time. So really, I don't think there's that much strength in depth. Keen enough to take on an Equilateral, and at the prices around the 7-1 mark, I thought Wise Words was well worth a shot. The second race comes in the 1.25 mile handicap, due off at 2:15. There are a couple of interesting sorts in here. I think Maidani is the sort of horse that could yet get back on the up. He was pretty impressive when he won by a wide margin at Goodwood. I think it's easy enough to chalk off his run at York last time. He just seemed unable to handle pretty testing ground. But at the prices, I think Kimbrook is one that really makes appeal for Ian Williams. This is a likely racehorse. I think he did quite well to achieve all that he did as a juvenile for Mark Johnston, considering that physically he was quite on the weak side. He won a pretty decent minor event at Ascot. He then was pitched into the Acomb Stakes at York, sent off just 6-1 for that. He was a bit too green, really, to do himself justice. It was a test of speed that didn't really suit either, given his pedigree. And he failed to fire in his final start of the year. But yeah, like I say, he left Matt Johnston, joined Ian Williams. He's been given plenty of time. I think that's probably going to pay off. He seems to have done plenty of growing, done really well physically. His comeback run off 11 months at Sandown last time was really eye-catching. He finished third, travelled pretty well, had to wait for a gap, and then looked like he was going to play a pretty big hand in the finish before he, understandably, really got a bit tired late on. He did carry his head a little bit high. I think that was probably residual inexperience. It's a relatively quick turnaround for a horse that had been off quite a long time, but I do think that there's going to be more still to come. The big field event, I think, is going to play, really into his hands. He does need to prove that he can back that up, but I think that there is definitely more still to come. And at around the 10-1 mark, I thought he was, definitely interesting. The third bet, the final one, comes in the Mill Reef, which is at 3:25. Rhythm Master obviously sets a fairly clear standard, but there are 2 in here that do look really promising. 5,000-1 and Bahrain Pride. They're closely matched on their debut form. They both made their debuts in a Windsor minor event. Bahrain Pride came out on top that day, narrowly. I think it was about 3/4 of the length. Both showed definite signs of inexperience, but obviously clear ability. And they've both gone on to win again since. Bahrain Pride won a listed race at Ripon, 5,000-1. Smashed a field really up at Newcastle in a minor event. It is slightly surprising to see Bahrain Pride the bigger price of the 2, considering what they've achieved. He has achieved a high level of form. Yes, 5,000-1 was impressive. He probably wasn't beaten all that much. So I think he's probably priced up more on potential than form. Bar and Pride, I was really impressed with him at Ripon. He travelled strongly, settled the race really quickly. He definitely looks capable of making his mark at this sort of level. 4-1, I think, is pretty generous about him. There's going to be a lot more improvement to come. So yeah, for me, Bar and Pride in the Mill Reef.